Now, in this lecture, I'm going to show you how you can create the register controller inside this project. We're going to make the post request and pass value to this controller. So let me show you how you can create this controller inside this application. I'm going to just add here try and catch block to catch the errors. So I'm going to add here try and catch block like this. So you can notice here we have the try section and the catch section. Inside this catch section, right down here, if we catch any error from this try block, I'm going to catch that error and return a response. So here I'm going to simply say response.status, and then I'm going to specify here status code, which is 500. And then I'm going to call here JSON. And inside this JSON, I'm going to pass here an object and pass here error key. And to this error key, I'm going to specify error.message. Just out of that, I'm going to specify default value to this message. So if I don't have any value to this message variable, then I'm going to call this string. And inside the string, I'm going to simply specify error while registration. That's it. So if there is any error inside this try block, I'm going to execute this catch block and return this error message. Just out of that, I'm going to grab this response and put that inside this try block like this. Now, what I'm going to do is when I make this post request, I'm going to pass data to this register endpoint, and I'm going to get that data inside this controller. So just up here, I'm going to simply get the user input data. When I make this post request, I'm going to pass some data to this endpoint. I'm going to get that data inside this controller. So here I'm going to say request.body, and inside this body, I'm going to have all my posted data. I'm going to just use JavaScript Destructuring feature to get all my data. So I'm going to specify here equal to sign, and here I'm going to say let, and in the object, I'm going to simply pass email, password, then specify password check and username. You can notice I'm going to get all these values from this body. So when I make a post request, I need to pass all these values with this post request. Now just out of that, I'm going to get rid of this message from here, and I'm going to pass here an object and then specify email, password, password check and username. I'm going to print all my values and return as a response using this JSON. Now let me just save the changes and test this route. So I'm going to open the Postman testing tool, and in the URI, I'm going to first specify the post request, and inside it, I'm going to specify HTTP localhost. Then I'm going to specify the port 4000/API, and then I'm going to specify here register. So we're going to make a request on this register route, and this is going to be the post request. So I'm going to specify here post. Just for that, with this postman, as you know, inside my controller, I'm going to get my values from this body. So I'm going to click on this body, and here I'm going to choose the raw data. Inside this raw data, I'm going to choose the JSON data. So with this request, I'm going to pass a JSON data. So here I'm going to simply pass object like this, and in the double quote, I'm going to specify the key email and pass value to it. I'm going to say here admin@gmail.com. Inside my controller, I have here email variable. So from this body, I'm going to get the email value inside this email variable. Just out of that, I'm going to create another key inside this JSON. So here I'm going to say password. You can notice we have the password here. I'm going to specify here password, which is going to be admin123. I'm going to do the same. So I'm going to specify here password, check, and specify here value admin123. Just out of that, at the last, I'm going to specify username, and username is going to be daily. I'm going to simply pass an object to this body as a raw data, and this is going to be the JSON type of data. So I'm going to select here JSON. Now when I make a request on this route, on this API endpoint, I'm going to get the response. So when I click on the send button, you can notice I'm going to get the input data as a response. Now once you get the posted data, let me just check if it is a valid request or not. So at the top here I'm going to create a comment and say validate request. Let me first check if it is a valid request or not. So here I'm going to say if we don't have any data inside this request.body, then I'm going to return an error message. So I'm going to say here response.status, and inside it, in the parentheses, I'm going to specify status code 406, and then I'm going to pass here JSON. Inside the JSON, I'm going to specify curly braces, and here I'm going to say error. To this error object, I'm going to simply specify you have to fill the registration form. And then I'm going to specify here return statement to exit from this method. Save this file. Let me just test this status. Open my Postman testing tool, and this time I'm not going to return anything with this request. So I'm going to specify here none, and I'm going to get rid of this statement. This statement is going to create a body variable to this request object. So I'm going to get rid of it. So I'm going to just specify here a comment. Back to my Postman testing tool, and now if I make a request, when I click on the send button, you can notice I'm going to have here an error message. You have to fill the registration form. So it means you don't have any data with this request. So make sure you pass data with this request. Now let me just uncomment this statement, save this file. Now just for that, once you validate this request, we need to validate these values as well. What if the user forget to specify their username or password or their email? In that case, you need to validate that input as well. So let me just validate this input. So just down here, I'm going to just simply say if the email or the password or the password check value, if it is not there, if it is empty, then I'm going to return a simple response with the status code 406. Now 406 is a not applicable error. Then I'm going to specify here dot JSON. I'm going to return the type of data which is going to be JSON. So inside it, I'm going to specify here error, the key, and then I'm going to specify not all fields have been entered, just like this. So if you don't have any value inside your email, password, or inside your password check, you will get this error message. Just for that, here I'm going to create another if statement, and this time I'm going to check the password length. So here I'm going to say password dot length. If it is less than 8 character, then I'm going to return a response with a status code 406, and then I'm going to send a JSON data with it. So I'm going to send here a JSON with the object error, and here I'm going to specify password, or you can say the password needs to be at least 8 character long. So if your password length is less than 8 character, you will get this error message. Now just for that, let me just check this password and this check password values. So here I'm going to say if password, if it is not equal to password check, then I'm going to execute this if statement and say here response.status. Status is going to be 406, and then I'm going to return a JSON data with it, and in the object I'm going to specify error, which is going to be password must be same for verification. Now if you want, you can validate the email as well using regular expression. That's upon you. So just for understanding, I'm going to put these 3 if statements, and now let me just check these if statements. Let me save this file, and here let me just check this validation. So I'm going to just first check this first validation. So if we don't have any value inside email, password, or check password, I'm going to get this first validation error. If I get rid of this value, this email value from here, now let me just make a request. As you can see, I'm going to get here error message, not all fields have been entered. Let me do the same for this password. When I make a request, I'm going to get the same result, and when I do the same for this password check, I'm going to get this same error because the value of these keys are empty. So let me just pass values here. Now just for that, let me check this password check length. Now if the length of this password is less than 8 character, I'm going to get this error message. Now let me just remove this 3 from this password and from this check password. When I make a request, you can notice I'm going to have here an error message. The password need to be at least 8 character long. This time the password length is equal to 7 character. That is why I'm going to get this error message. What if I specify here different password? This time the if statement is going to return this validation error. Password must be same for verification, because you can notice the password is different. So let me just specify here something else. When I make this request, I'm going to get an error message. password must be same for verification. You can notice here, both these passwords are different. That is why I'm going to get this last error message. Now, I hope you understand how to validate the user input and get the data from the post request. In the next lecture, I'm going to create this login controller.